Hey, good Friday morning, everybody. BAM weather meteorologist Brett Waltz here, giving you a long-range forecast update, guys. I hope y'all are doing well this morning, and wanted to start out by saying our thoughts and prayers are with everybody that was impacted by Hurricane Helene, especially with that storm surge along the coast last night, but also with folks that are still dealing with the remnants this morning. We've got major flash flood emergencies in the Atlanta metro area. We have flash flood warnings all across parts of Georgia, South Carolina, and North Carolina. And the remnants will be working northward throughout the day today, bringing some very high wind into the Ohio Valley. Could cause power outages up into Indiana, Kentucky, Ohio, Illinois as well. And so Helene continues to cause major impacts across a good part of the country, and that is where we are going to start today. You can see the circulation center itself is still well down to the south and to the east, but getting influence from it already with heavy rain working into Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, even into parts of Tennessee, Missouri, and Arkansas. The heaviest rain this morning fell across parts of northern Georgia and the Atlanta metro area. We click around here, look at all these flash flood warnings that have been issued with words like catastrophic flash flooding, particularly dangerous situation flash flood warning. That's not something that you see very often. There's been a ton of water rescues down here, and so again, just continuing to think about folks that are being impacted by this storm down there. Some of the heaviest rain right now is in the Appalachians, and we briefly touched on this yesterday about how the upslope and the winds that are moving right into the mountains are going to enhance the precipitation here. Again, you click around in Asheville, North Carolina, catastrophic flash flood damage threat. Going to have water rescues, you're going to have major flooding concerns and probably mudslides as well in these mountainous areas. And then as this works further north as we go throughout the day today, going to be dealing with the wind further to the north. If we turn on here our 3-hour max wind gust from our Clarity platform here, guys, we'll look at this. This is the next 3 hours. You click around here. Let me turn off our alert so we can click around here and look at this a little bit better. But guys, you click around and you're dealing with, gosh, wind gusts over here, 70 plus mile per hour in western North Carolina, western South Carolina, all the way into Kentucky already the next 3 hours or so, dealing with very strong wind gusts. And you can see how these continue to push north as we go throughout the day, working into eastern Kentucky by the early to middle part of the afternoon. Then as we work towards about 4 o'clock, you're dealing with some strong wind gust of 50, 60 miles per hour into Indiana, into Ohio, even all the way into Illinois. 40 plus mile per hour wind gust. And then as we work into the evening hours, you're clicking around here and you're looking at 60 to locally 70 mile per hour wind gust across the southern half of Indiana, and then it will push further off to the east into Illinois as we work into the late evening hours and into the overnight hours. And so just a continuous impact from the remnants of Helene. Very unusual to see such strong winds so far north and such great impacts in such an expansive area. And it's just because of how fast the storm is moving, and that's related to the interaction with the previous low pressure system that's still kind of hanging around parts of the south central United States. Now moving on from Helene real quick, more updates in the Clarity platform for your local forecast areas if you need more details. I know our team is working diligently to keep folks updated on Clarity throughout the day today. Now, in terms of just the overall pattern as we move things forward, guys, we will warm back up a little bit as we go into next week. But as we go into the middle part of next week, here's our kind of first fall front that we're going to be dealing with. Some cooler air pushing in. At this time, I don't see a huge frost threat. Maybe something to keep in mind if data trends a little bit cooler. I think maybe the bigger potential will be this reinforcing front that happens around the 6th or the 7th of the month. There is a recurving typhoon in the West Pacific. And if you've been with us for a while, we know that a lot of times when you get those recurving typhoons, model data will trend quite a bit colder. I would not be shocked over the weekend to see more cooler trends in this area. And again, maybe need to watch out for some kind of frost threat in here to close out the first week of the month. If we take a look, guys, just real quick here, I want to make the note. If you look at the upper level pattern, you can see a pretty decent trough diving into the Great Lakes. And look at the colder trends overnight last night in this time frame. Data starting to pick it up. I wouldn't be shocked again if they even trended a little bit cooler over the weekend. Whether it's this next run or whether it's one that happens a little bit later remains to be seen. But regardless, guys, going to be dealing with perhaps a stronger front in here as we go further into the first week of October. Guys, moving along here real quick, in terms of let me go back here 1 second, guys. Here we go. If we look at the pattern the next 2 weeks and how temperatures and precipitation average out here, guys, you can see next 7 days overall still warmer than normal for a lot of the country. You can see some of the cooler influence from the remnants of Helene. And then if we go into this week 2 time frame, trending cooler. We're going with a more aggressive solution given that typhoon recurve, given 2 fronts that we have in this time frame. I think it's a warmer west pattern, probably very hot across the western part of the country, and cooler air east. But in terms of precip, you can see Helene is really the main influencing factor over the next 7 days. Aside from that, it's dry. Western and central U.S. very dry, and I think the pattern stays drier than normal for much of the country as we go through the first 10 days of October. It's going to be a drier than normal pattern that we're going to be dealing with as we go through the first part of October. Now, in terms of the pattern evolution for the middle part of the month, I think that this will continue to be a big driver ahead. The signal is that we are going to drop our global winds to a weaker state, to a more La Nina-like or a more negative state. This should still favor a warm up as we go towards the back half of the month, maybe the back third of the month. Again, there's about a 20-day lag or so on the influences of this. And so you're looking at late October being in line for a potential warm up in the pattern. And if we take a look here at our tropical forcing signals, really nothing has changed from what we talked about on Tuesday. Going to be working into this MJO phase 3 and 4. Should allow for a little bit of a change in the pattern. If we take a look at years that did something similar to this, specifically years that were also a La Nina, we looked at years like 2022, we looked at 2010, we looked at 2005 and 1999. Overall, it favors more warmth in a little bit more of a widespread fashion, spreading just a little bit further east with time as we go throughout this time frame. It continues to favor a drier than normal pattern. If you recall, our outlook on Tuesday was very dry for weeks 3 and 4, and these analogs would suggest that's still very much on the table for the most part. And so, for areas getting some rain that are currently still under drought conditions, getting some rain from Helene, probably trend right back drier as we go into October. If we look at some model data, this is the CFS, this is the 10 to 20 day period. Don't mind this. I think this progression makes sense. It's a warm central and western U.S., cooler east, but as we go further down the line into mid-October, you can see that warmth starts to spread further east. And then as we close out October into November, it just continues to kind of migrate east with time, with a warmer than normal pattern setting up late October into the month of November. And so, really no big change to our weeks 3 and 4 outlook here, guys. I think a warm central to western U.S., probably trending warmer east with time. The period starts out cooler east, and again, we'll get warmer as the time frame moves on. Though I will note, even amid this period, I would not be shocked, based off what I'm seeing in the North Pacific, if we had at least a quick blast of some colder air around the 19th or the 20th of the month. The signal here is pretty strong, and so I'd be on the lookout here for, even amid a warmer pattern, maybe a quick but notable shot of some colder air here around the 19th, 20th, or 21st of the month, somewhere in there. So something to keep in mind, even though this is a warm forecast, you can still get cold shots in here. Might be something to watch for a frost freeze threat in here the 19th to the 20th. In terms of precip, no major changes here, still a drier than normal pattern. I added a much below normal precip signal in the northern plains and the upper Midwest. Pretty much all 4 of the analogs I looked at had this signal. It was too much for me to not put it in. It also continues to kind of be drier in this area. It's been one of the driest Septembers on record. I just don't have a good reason to go against that idea as things stand right now. Before we go, I want to touch on November. We did update our November outlooks. If you recall, we updated October outlooks earlier this week. Be sure to go take a look at that in the Clarity platform. But if we look at November and we look at our Central Pacific La Nina analogs that we talked about earlier this week, it's a very warm signal, especially across the central part of the country. And this really leads into what we're talking about late October, is that with time, it just gets warmer. And it gets warmer further east, and I think these analogs highlight that very well. And so we did trend our November outlook warmer. I think November as a whole has the potential to be a warmer than normal month for a good portion of the country. I don't really see it as a big, early winter cold period. I think it could be a slow start to winter before things really ramp up in December. We take a look at precip, and once again, guys, it's drier than normal. It's especially dry across the south central part of the country. That's very common with La Nina years the further into fall that you go. But, even across parts of the Midwest, some drier signals showing up. I do see some analogs that try to start to pick up more of a La Nina-like pattern and produce some precip through the eastern Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, and Northeast. I do think that's something to probably factor in and that we added into the outlook here. That being said, I think the risk to this is that this dryness just is a little more expansive. And so I think that's the risk to the forecast as we go into November. But overall, kind of a drier southern and central tier of the United States as we go through the end of November. And overall, I'd say things progressing similarly to what our overall September, October, November outlook indicated late last month. Guys, that's all I have for today's forecast. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Hope you all have a great rest of your day.